this scone tutorial. We have put a lot of effort into this. We have created over a dozen versions of the recipe. It's all to ensure you can enjoy the most delicious pistachio layered scone. And today's comparison has 3 options. At the end of the video, let's go through the production process first. Like the layered series scones, they are perfect little snacks for room temperature shipping. If you are making the cheese series, you will need to add ice packs. The method for making scones is still quite simple. From preparation to baking, the actual working time is no more than 30 minutes. 220 grams of cake flour, 38 grams of granulated sugar, 5 grams of baking powder, 1 gram of sea salt. Sift it. The dry ingredients must be mixed well. This is mainly to ensure the baking powder is evenly distributed. 70 grams of butter. It should be chilled. Cut into small pieces. The butter just taken out is still a bit hard. We will break it up a bit. If you want the scone to be easy to eat, you need to pay attention to a few points. One is to avoid over-mixing the dough. Also, don't keep rolling it out repeatedly. Additionally, do not reduce the sugar in the recipe. Reducing sugar will also affect the texture. In summer, the room temperature is too high. Just use a bench scraper directly. As for the milk, I used 80 grams here. The recommendation is between 75 to 80 grams. Because different brands of flour have slight differences in water absorption. For the layered scone dough, it's not advisable to make it too wet. It won't roll out well if your dough has some dry flour left after mixing. You don't need to worry about it. Wrap it well in plastic wrap. Here, we pre-shape it into a rectangle. Then refrigerate for 30 minutes. Actually, you can also make this one in a black sesame flavor, and then combine them for sale. This way, the costs will be significantly lower, because scones can actually be made in many flavors. However, the layered scone does have some material requirements. There are still a few material requirements. For example, the one we make the most often is cinnamon. It is cinnamon. Of course, if you need a tutorial, you can leave a message for me below the video. Before rolling, it's necessary to sprinkle a bit of dry flour on the surface. Keep the plastic wrap on the bottom. At first, it has a bit of firmness. After rolling it out, it becomes easy to handle. Try to roll it out as evenly as possible. Then, do not repeatedly roll. The dough that is repeatedly rolled will develop gluten. Then, the texture will become dry and hard to swallow. Spread a thin layer of pistachio paste. For this recipe amount, along with trimmings, it can make about 9 pieces. The amount of pistachio paste is 30 grams. Try to scrape it as thin as possible. One reason is cost consideration. The other is that pistachios have a high oil content, which can affect the cohesion of the scone dough. After completing the first step, you can continue to chill it in the refrigerator for 15 minutes. The main issue is that the room temperature is high now. If you're working in winter, this step can be skipped. Still, sprinkle a little bit of dry flour. Continue to roll out and spread the paste. Repeat this step 3 times. The layers will turn out quite nice in the end. Of course, if you're aiming for more layers technically, you can go ahead and repeatedly roll and press. We usually do it 3 times. It's not impossible to make more layers. The pistachio paste is indeed delicious. After all, it is quite expensive. For home production, we don't mind these things. If it's for sale in a shop, we actually need to consider the cost. After completing the last step, it needs to be sent to the freezer. It must be frozen for at least half an hour. Only by freezing properly can we see the edge layers when we cut the dough. If you cut it gently, the dough will just collapse completely. We won't see this layered effect. Of course, breaking it open still has an effect. But when making desserts, it not only has to taste good, but the presentation is also very important, right? Each piece is about 4.5 centimeters. I'll also provide the thickness. About 5 to 2 centimeters is fine. Because we actually operate by hand, it's not possible to be that precise. The surface also needs to be brushed with egg wash. The baked product will be shiny. The oven I'm using today is the Chandi Cat Little Easy Pro. Bake at 170 degrees with both top and bottom heat for 20 minutes. This time for comparison, I only selected 3 representative recipes to make. One uses all cake flour, with a water amount of 80 grams. One uses a portion of high gluten flour, with the water amount still at 80 grams. One is entirely cake flour, and then the water amount is increased to about 92 grams. The 2 darker ones were baked at 180 degrees on top and 170 degrees below. Of course, the baking color mainly depends on your personal preference. All cake flour with a water amount of 80 grams. This will have a slight dome in the middle after baking. But this is actually a normal occurrence. In terms of texture, it is very soft. It does not feel dry at all when eaten. The version with high gluten flour. When you eat it, it will have a slight chewiness. The softness level is a little lower. The version with more water. The middle will be more moist. The softness level is still acceptable. Click on my profile picture to view. There are many practical baking tutorials waiting for you to check out.